Hey, how's everybody doing today? I want to take just a brief moment and talk about playing through the changes. I get a million questions about that, and honestly, I think for me, playing through the changes is something that's just developed over time. There's no real secrets to it. It's other than visualizing the fretboard and knowing every note on the fretboard. So if you don't know that, learn that. That's the first thing. Step number one. Then my second thought on this is play a lick that you already know, and when that lick lands, look where your hand is. And look at the most economical way to get to the next chord. Whether that be a 1 to a 4, like say an A to a D, and look where your hand, look where you're ended on that lick and see what the most appropriate way is. Because I guarantee you're probably one note away or you've landed on the position. So if you take A major, for instance, and I'm going to just play like right out of an A major lick, right? Well, look, I landed on an A, right? I started in an A, I landed on an A, which I can also be this A, right? But if I want to go to a D, well, I'm on a D. I'm laying on a D. I'm on the second string, look. Well, if I have to be, that is not going to get much smoother than that. Back to my A, right? So I'm just always looking at when my hand lands. I like for the listener to know what key I'm in, obviously. If you're playing jazz or something, you're playing something outside, that's one thing. But in general, I mean, you're playing for the common man who doesn't understand music, and you want to be where he goes, oh, they made the changes. And if you just think about like Chuck Berry, for instance, right? Well, Chuck Berry was always doing a... Then he went to the D. But what you don't think about is when you play that, well, what if I went... That's my A. Then when I went to the D, well, I stayed here, right? But what if I went... I just moved the whole position, right? It's the same thing. But instead of thinking of it from behind it, I'm thinking about it in front, major, And you have to know those chords, so basically if you're in the key of A, right? So there's A7, well that starts adding in the G. So then you have to think about knowing those chords, like knowing the 3 notes that make up an A chord, knowing the 3 notes that make up an A7. That way you can transition that all the way up the fretboard, knowing those positions. Simply knowing that, like, this is F, right? This is F, right? You're moving up, you're like, this is F. And I'm just taking these top 3 strings just for example. So then they're so closely related when you land on your second position. If you're going F, F, and then your next chord is going to be a B flat, right? Well, you're right there on it. So if your position was playing an F, so I guess, I don't really think about it too much because I do it. So I've been playing, I'm 46, I've been playing since I was 6. And I know all these notes on the fretboard, so I can just move things around and transpose. It doesn't matter what key I'm in. But for learning this and making it sound smooth, I would say start off, play a lick you already know. And then it doesn't matter what that lick is. I mean, it could be like the Chuck Berry thing. It doesn't matter. But you just play any lick you know, and you're like... Right? I landed on an A note. But say I want to go to my 4 chord, a D. Well, that is a D chord. So I mean, that's about as smooth as you can get of a transition. A, D, A, E, D, A. And I know I'm just looking at it very simply, but those are the kind of things where the common man goes, oh, wow, I hear those changes. I hear that rolling by. and it makes the song sound smooth when you're playing a solo. And obviously, you get way more in depth with that. But if you want like a whole series on it, Guthrie Trapp just did a series, and it's like playing through the changes, and he's kind of getting into more like, you know, Western swing kind of jazz things and how it works over the 2/5 combinations and all that. It's a great series. And if you want to dig super deep into it, but just like if you're starting out, I mean, I've had so many people ask me, if you're just starting out, play a lick you already know, wherever it lands, look at your hand and go, okay, well, how's the many different ways I could get to D or whatever you're in? You know, say if you're an A and you're trying to get to D, or you're trying to get to E and you're like, well, where's the closest E? Where's the closest E chord? And what lick could I play out of this position to land me right back into the A chord? And I'm guarantee you're probably 1 fret away, or you're sitting on top of the chord. Because this thing, it's just a big, you know, amalgamation of the same chord all the way up, depending on what key you're in. You're 1 fret away from it, at least, you know, at the most. So hope that helps. Just a little bit of my insight. And we're going to have a lesson there in a couple days. That's part 2 of the string bending.